Next, I want to look at a couple scenarios where you have a generic type, and sometimes it's useful to have a base class for that generic type where the base class is not generic. It doesn't need any generic type parameters. It's kind of similar to the situation that we saw when we built our own IOC container. We had generic methods that use generic type parameters, and for every method that took a generic type parameter, I provided an alternate method that did not need a generic type parameter. You just passed it a system.type reference instead. That allowed some additional flexibility, and it gives me a method to call when I do not know the type at compile time. Let's take a situation where I have a generic class, let's say item of t. And I don't need any implementation inside of here. Instead, what I want to do is create a list that can hold item of a specific type, like an item of int. And that makes it very easy to add a new item of int. And I can add as many of those as I want. But what if I want to add also an item of double? So I need a list that can hold both types. Well, currently, I cannot add an item of double to a list that only stores item of int. That's a compiler error. What if I just said, this can hold an item of any type of object? Well, in that case, now the C# compiler is doubly unhappy, because neither an item of int or an item of double is an item of object. Now we could look at various ways to try to solve this problem and refactor things and work very hard to figure out some way to introduce covariance and have this work, or in some scenarios, it's just a better solution to have a base class item that does not need the generic type parameter. Because now I can just have a new list of item, and because item of int and item of double are both derived from item, they go into the list just fine. It also gives me a class where I might have some behavior that's available to all types of items, and I'd be able to invoke it through that base class reference. And there's an additional scenario where having a base class might come in helpful. Let's look at that next.